Yep, online. Correct. Starting and we'll be laughing. So,
We're alive, thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody. Let's begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands upon which we meet tonight, the Jara. Acknowledge their elders past and present, and acknowledge their enduring and deep connections to the lands and waters of our beautiful home here in Hepburn. Welcome community, welcome councillors, and welcome officers to our meeting, which I'll declare officially our meeting of the 23rd of June 2026. I'll declare that officially open. The commitment, Councillor Hewitt, would you please read the council commitment?
Yes,
Thank you very much. And also just to note, I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Hewitt has got a back challenge at the moment and will be standing up and down to relieve that. So just if anyone's aware. So thank you. And thank you for attending under duress.
Yeah, if I can't find mine.
Sorry, I missed what this was. What is this? The
Council
Statement of commitment.
statement of
commitment. Okay, good.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
We, the councillors of Hepburn Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in us in this council by the people of Hepburn Shire.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Item number 3, apologies. I don't believe we have any for tonight. No, thank you. Councillors, officers, any declaration of interests?
no.
Conflict of interest? No. Okay, thank you. We'll note that. Item number 5, confirmation of minutes. I'd like to put forward to council that we acknowledge the meeting minutes of the 26th of May 2026 as true and accurate reflection of that meeting. Councillors, I have a motion for that.
Yes, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hockey. Second. Thank you, Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Thank you very much, councillors. We'll now move to item 6, public participation time. 6.1 public petitions. I believe we have none. Thank you. 6.2 request to address council. We have none. Thank you. Item 6.3 we have I believe 2 questions. So Mr. Thomas, I'd like you to read those and Councillor Cornish will.
Thank you. Margaret McDonald, just checking if you're not here to read the questions out.
No, that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So questions 1 and 2 are from Margaret McDonald in her role on the Dalesford Indoor Aquatic Centre. Question 1, the Solucio report costs all options on the basis of a 30% contingency and annual 7.5% cost escalation to 2030-31. These factors nearly double the estimated 2024 cost of delivery for the project. For example, option D, a new minimum viable production costed at 8.1 million, with fit out and services has a reported indicative cost of 17.5 million. How do these escalations compare to comparable projects such as the Town Hall redevelopment?
Thank you. This level of escalation is considered appropriate for aquatic facilities and acknowledge there may be minor variances between specialty project types. Town Hall project is considered a very different project with very different complexities. However, for comparison purposes, I can confirm that 5% per year has been allowed for the Town Hall project.
And question 2 states that nearly 1 million is budgeted to maintain both operating and capital costs the outdoor pools for the 26-27 season. The question being that if these funds were reallocated to financing in new facilities based on option D, a location to be determined as well, is there a viable alternative? Note in the Solucio report this option could operate at an operating profit.
This is a hypothetical scenario with many unknowns and is not able to be directly answered at this stage. If these funds were to be reallocated to financing an alternate project, such as an aquatics facility is outlined in option D, it would require the closure of all 3 existing outdoor pools and the Creswick Splash Park. Later in tonight's agenda, Council will be considering the possible establishment of a community panel to consider all relevant information and inform the future direction of aquatic services. Speculating on this scenario may be premature at this stage.
Okay, thank you. That concludes on 6.3. Okay, we'll now move to Council will now move to item 7.1, the aquatics review, and I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce this topic. The officers' report in front of us identifies some real challenges in the space around aquatics, also in our medium and short, medium and long-term financial situation. It also clearly identifies the aquatics centres that we have within our shire are facing clear structural and long-term maintenance issues. Like many across the state, we're heading towards end of life. This report identifies a proposed path forward in terms of aquatics and what we should be considering, looking at how we actually work together with community to develop, a future vision of what that might look like. This report acknowledges where we're at the moment in terms of cost, and the realities of maintaining pools as we move forward is going to be problematic as we look to the future. This report takes a step forward and seeks to commence discussions to develop with our community a strategy and a plan for the future for this very, very important resource that we have for our community. We are the pools will be reopening for summer, and it suggests a way forward that we work with community. It also sets some responsible parameters for responsible financial management and some constraints given our situation, and commits to a pathway forward in terms of working at community engagement. Councillors, we have a recommendation in front of us. I would like to see, do we have a councillor who's prepared to put a motion forward to put it for debate and discussion?
I'm happy to move slightly, not the officer's recommendation, a slight change. The officer's recommendation point 1, 2, delete 3 and 4 becomes 3. So thank you. The changes are to delete what's in the agenda number 3. With the new point 3, I'll read it out. To create a shire-wide representative community panel to undertake community engagement to inform the future direction of aquatics provision for approval at the August 2026 council meeting. And then point 4 of what I'm moving is the 5 in the agenda, and point 5 has the addition of after funding program by state and federal government.
Have we captured that on one of the screens?
Yeah.
And is that what are you comfortable with that as a motion?
Yes.
This motion accurate reflects?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll seek, is there anyone who'd like to second that motion?
I'm interested in seconding, I'm just wondering if council would consider a slight amendment to that.
Well, perhaps councillor, if you put it forward, and then we will look at, then I'm happy to give you the floor to seek a quick adjustment. Yeah, okay, so we'll put that forward. So we have that live. Would you like to just put forward your amendment? Then I'll allow you to speak. If it's a quick one.
So the amendment is just the future direction. So in item 3, add after provision direction of aquatics provision, including natural waterways. Or
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I'm comfortable with that. No? So that's it. Okay.
is that inclusive enough?
Yeah.
Anyway, we can, Councillor Hewitt, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Only to say the aquatic strategy or consideration about the aquatic strategy has been on the agenda for a long time. Our outdoor swimming pools are much in the community, but as the Mayor pointed out in his report, they're at a stage where significant investment is required. And with the Shire's financial constraints, that's difficult. This provides a pathway for determining what we actually do and recognising the community's commitment to the pools and enabling the opportunity to have a Shire-wide representative community panel to consider all of the aquatic services and what's the best direction forward. I want to clarify, as just repeat what you've indicated, is the pools will be open in 2026, 2027. In the draft budget, there is an amount that's set aside for the opening of the pools. Point 4, it refers to an expenditure cap of $150,000 per pool, which may or may not be needed. But that's in case something happens in these ageing facilities that compromise the safety and would lead to issues in the 2026-2027 pool. It's not that council thinks that that's the amount of money that's needed to get them up to speed.
30 seconds.
It's clearly indicate that. So just wanted to make that clear. This is an issue that councils all around Victoria and probably interstate as well are facing, and as these pools that were built post the Melbourne Olympics come to the end of their life. It's an opportunity for funding when you think about the proposed 2032 Olympics coming up in Queensland.
Thank
So
you.
I just make that point.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Drummond, would you like to speak for the motion?
Yes, so speaking for the motion, it's been an incredibly long journey to get to this point, and I'm very pleased to see that the background documents are being released to the community finally after a couple of years. And it's, however, I couldn't support the motion in its original form, partly because it was limiting some options for that community panel that I think really does need to be discussed in some detail, acknowledging financial constraints that council finds itself in, but also not to preempt any future advocacy to state and federal possibilities around funding that the community might be able to leverage and council. So it's I think this is a fair motion, but also to understand the importance of aquatics within our Shire and the broad nature of that, including our waterways and the significance of swimming and other access around water is such an important thing for people of all means. So and people with disabilities and access and the need for rehabilitation facilities and the diverse sort of range of facilities that are available to other communities in this space are quite considerable, and that to shut off that discussion at this point, I think, is preemptive, and particularly around some of the important identifications that are made in the report around particular locations for types of facilities that we could develop. I think needs time for people to consider and to look at, what the practicalities are in that space.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Darling. Councillors, any questions for officers, or we would like to speak for or against?
Brian was on.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Hood.
Thanks, Mayor. I have one question and one point of clarification, if I may. Reference was made to the fact that there is an allocation in the draft 26-27 budget. I'm just seeking a reminder of what that amount is. And the point of clarification is that my understanding is that the 150,000 allocation per pool is not included in the draft budget, and that should it be needed, those funds would need to be found from somewhere within the budget. Is that second point correct?
Thomas? Mr. Lucas, yep.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hood, for the question. The first part, I can confirm that within the capital renewal program of the draft budget, there is an aquatics renewal program allocation of $290,000 to undertake a range of works across the 3 sites, which includes replacement of the sand in the sand filters, it's pipe replacement in some locations, leak repairs to the to a number of the facilities that we identified throughout the last season. The reference to the $150,000, again, you are correct, it's not an allocation provided for within the draft budget. It is a referenced trigger or council's threshold, if you like, to guide officers on any works that will be needed after the commencement of the pool season, where we might find we have some major failing of the infrastructure. And the $150,000 threshold would need to be found if it were needed. And as I said, is a threshold or a guide for officers to know to what level to invest in to undertake the necessary repairs should we find some major failing.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. Now the council to speak for information.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Hockey.
Look, I'd just like to acknowledge the good intentions of the alternate motion, but in general, I don't support this as an item. I'd like to acknowledge that pursuing this question reflects an organisation determined to do the right thing, but I don't think it's our fight to have. I think it's a national fight that's still to come, and I don't think we should preempt the outcome of that fight either by moving in any direction. Within a few years, this will become a national problem that demands a solution from the federal government. The amount of money nationally to fix this problem over the next 10 years is in fact modest in national terms, and a national fund could be just around the corner. It is not the time for us to be making permanent decisions in this space. This is the time to focus on advocacy. If a pool fails here, we have a problem, but we have one problem. It's not for our small shire with our tiny number of ratepayers to try and solve national problems. Again and again, I find myself asking the community to bear in mind the limitations imposed on our shire by its small size. This is another example. Going forward, we can respond to individual problems with any one of our pools. We don't need to set out to solve this national problem. But having said that, we can certainly direct our energies into advocacy for a national pool. Must be inevitable. We are not going to see masses of pools close across the country. And managing the panel that is proposed will be difficult and add enormously to the workload. And so that's a parallel concern I have. Thank you for that time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hockey. Anyone else like to speak for or against?
I'll speak for.
Thank you, Councillor Cornish.
Look, I'll just acknowledge that I agree with what the council have said so far. It's important to have that statewide, the shire-wide representation, because each town understands its own area, it understands its own needs, and people need to be represented or feel that they are represented in their own towns regarding a pool that they so value. So the community panel could be problematic, but I think now that we've added it will come to council, that is the criteria that makes up the panel, the number of people on the panel, the representation. And finally, it will adding approval at the August council meeting by councillors. So it's important that we oversee a lot of this panel involvement. So at the moment, we're trying to keep these pools functioning, and I believe we achieve that, and we're not making any conclusions as to the future at this stage, but we're relying on the community to guide us and support each other in our final deliberations on that issue.
Thank you very much. Anything else, councillors? Otherwise, Councillor Hood.
Yep, thanks, Mayor. I'll broadly speak in support of the motion. I welcome the release of the feasibility study. I think that will only help to better inform the community. For me, the two most important aspects in this motion are that we form this community panel. I think that piece of consultation is important. These are very, very important valued assets. And the other second very important part is what we adopted in February of this year with the advocacy statement and the priority projects document. Let that play out. Let's see where that advocacy leads, if anywhere. This doesn't preempt any final decisions. And those two pieces of work with the community are important and will help to guide us. So rather than burning any bridges, this will just help with a clearer way forward in a reasonable time frame too. So I'm generally supportive of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. So unless there's anything else here Councillor would like to say, I will ask Councillor Hood as the right of response.
Look, all I'll say is thank you, colleagues, for your consideration of this issue. And thank you, officers, for the work you've done on this. We know that it's an important issue for the community. Everything that my councillor colleagues have said is accurate. The importance of the pools, the importance to the community. Totally agree with Councillor Hockey that it's not our problem to solve, and with Councillor Hood that advocacy is a key problem. There are some timelines. I again refer to the 2032 Olympics. That's where we all got our funding from for these pools 60, 70 years ago, following the successful Melbourne Olympics in 1956. So opportunities do arise, sometimes only very occasionally, and it would be, we wouldn't want to be closing off any options at this, or any solutions at this stage, given that. So thank you for your consideration of this topic.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hewitt. So with that and the motion in front of us, councillors, all those in favour, raise your hand.
For Clark, Cornish, Dryly, Hewitt, Hood.
Okay, against? That's unanimous.
Staying.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I didn't hear a hockey.
No, I'm sorry.
So I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, officers, for all your work. Looking forward to, and I'm very supportive of the proposal and for all the reasons Councillor Hewitt and other councillors have talked about. Working in partnership with our community to come up with a solution is going to be very, very important. Okay, so thank you, councillors, and officers. We'll move to item 7.2, the Macedon Daylesford and Macedon Rail Trail. Councillor Hockey, would you like to introduce this item, please?
Yes, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
The purpose of this report is for Council to review the Daylesford Hanging Rock Rail Trail project. Officers recommended to cease actively pursuing the project, as well as progress the transfer of responsibility of the corridor between Bellato and Lineville to Daylesford Spa Country Rail. This recommendation is formed in consideration of significant costs of the project, availability of funding and risk associated with community support, landholder complexities, uncertainty around alignment and other complicating factors. It would also support rail extensions planned by the Daylesford Spa Country Rail. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hockey. So, councillors, we have a recommendation in front of us. Do you wish to put, council wish to put that forward as a motion or an alternate motion?
I'm happy to put forward the officer's recommendation.
As a motion. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt, and I'd like to second that.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Hockey. So I declare that the motion live for discussion and debate. Councillor Hewitt, would like to speak to the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm pleased to be moving this motion. The Daylesford Spa Country Railway team have been advocating for this since the last term of council. They're a very active group, very successful group that has worked really hard to maintain the Spa Country Railway, and their plans and their visions for the rest of the line from Bellato to Lionville, which is currently not anything being done with it, is a really important addition. Council did in the last term of council make a decision to support or to advocate for both the extension of the railway and the formation of a rail trail. Unfortunately, a great decision at the time, but unfortunately, all of the complexities that have been alluded to in Councillor Hockey's introduction meant that that was not possible, and that Macedon Rangers as well are not decided not to continue with their part of the extension to Hanging Rock. That's unfortunate, but I'm sure that with the success of the Daylesford Spa Country Railway and the people who work there, that this will see the development of that very important railway, which has historical significance. And the fact that we've got to this stage is a testament to the hardworking members of that group and their capacity to continue to persevere and lobby and work towards achieving what their goal is.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hockey. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I've got some skin in this game. I've served on the development committee of one of the significant Victorian rail trails and have ridden on a good number of them. In my experience, they're typically community-led by the community. Council supports, but community leads. They're enormous undertakings and they're rife with unknown unknowns. They're just full of them. Just a nightmare in that respect, as alluded to in the introduction. I have to state that I'm not aware of a big push from the community for what would be an enormous, all-consuming and complex project. This is a noted example of a project that is at odds with the small rural shire's ability to deliver. We are not funded in such a way as to make ambitious projects a core interest without it having an impact on basic service delivery. Time and again, residents tell me they want us to do the basics well. In the meantime, a motivated and self-reliant group in the Daylesford Spa Country Rail group have a popular project in hand and they're ready to get stuck into it. It would be great if we could do both, but that's a million miles away from where we are. So I do support the intent of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hockey. Councillors, any questions or anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Hood.
Thank you, Mayor. No questions. I'd like to support this motion. It's eminently sensible. I'd echo Councillor Hewitt's comments about the capability and performance of the Spa Country Rail Group. They've done some significant work to date and they're well positioned to extend their service from Bellato to Lionville, and it makes sense from council's point of view to pass on those leases to that group. This resolution or recommendation as it is adds a touch of financial realism. There isn't realistically any point to officers actively pursuing this project at the moment, even though it would be a fantastic addition to the Shire, not only for locals, but for visitation as well. But the reality is that it's not going to happen anytime soon. Fortunately, we already have the Domino Trail stretching from Lionville to Trentham. That's extremely popular and is there for good. And the motion as drafted at least leaves the door ajar in point 3 for future consideration should circumstances change down the track, as inevitably they might. So I'm generally supportive of this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hood. Any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion?
I have a question for the
Question, Councillor Dryley.
So Thomas, so I noted that in the report here that it says the economic and visitor analysis recommended proceeding only with the rail trail initially based on the economic benefits. And I seem to remember that there was considerable economic benefits predicted from this project when it was initially pitched to us last term. And that I'm wondering if you could comment on where we ended up by combining both the rail trail and the rail extension, did that compromise the future funding for this project at that point?
Thanks for your question. So yes, the rail trail by itself does have a positive net benefit. Combining the two doesn't make them impossible, but certainly complicated the project. And councils have been unable to get planning dollars off state government to effectively further enhance the project to a construction phase. So we're now talking a number of years since. So there's obviously changing economic times, particularly the state government, but it's also forward federal government. We've applied on a couple of times. We've been unsuccessful for that. So there's desire in the project, but it's a really significant construction cost. There's a lot of complexities. And what we've learned from other projects is significant dollars would need to be put into that planning, and that funding hasn't come forward.
Thank you.
The second question around the how more or less this project has been community driven. There's been a suggestion that it lacks community support. So could you comment on to the extent that this came from the community in the first instance, and to what extent we're seeing demand at this point?
Thanks, Mayor. Can I just confirm you're referring to the rail line extension in that question?
Yes.
Yeah. So the rail line extension is
No, sorry, the trail itself.
The rail trail certainly had been driven by community interest, and I think you've seen that, and council have spoken right across the state in terms of successful rail trails being created. But they also come at a cost and complexity. So there are lots of projects where there's community for support for. Not all projects can be delivered, and this is an example of that.
Any other questions? Any other? No. Councillor Hewitt, any concluding remarks before I put it to the vote?
No, I don't have anything else to add. Again, everyone's highlighted the success of the DAS, the difficulty in or the impossibility of at this stage proceeding with the dual rail trail and rail line. And we know that we'll be handing over the leases to a competent, well-functioning group who have persevered and worked hard to get themselves into a position to hopefully be able to do something to enhance this. And as others have pointed out, the recommendation doesn't preclude considering a rail trail should circumstances change considerably.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, councillors, we have a motion in front of us. I'll ask you to raise, if all those in favour raise your hand.
Councillor Hood, Hewitt, Hockey, Cornish and Clark.
Okay, all those against?
Riley.
That's right. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. Item number 7.3, review of the instruments of delegation. So, Councillor Hewitt to introduce.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll take this opportunity to stand up given my back situation. At the ordinary meeting, council meeting on the 17th of December 2024, council resolved to amend this S6 instrument of delegation, members of staff, to increase the decision-making capacity of council officers under S61(1) of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. This change to the instrument was to be implemented for a fixed term trial period of 18 months from the 1st of December 2024 to the 30th of June 2026. After this period, a report analysing the effectiveness of the trial was to be presented to a future council meeting for discussion and decision. The report included in the public agenda provides council with an overview of the 18-month trial, as well as the effectiveness of the application of the updated delegation. Officers have determined that the trial has been successful in delivering a more efficient administration of the planning scheme. Following feedback, minor adjustments and reformatting have been suggested in the report to ensure council's intended delegation is clear. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you very much, councillor Hewitt. Councillors, we have a recommendation in front of us. Is anyone prepared to put that forward or put forward an alternate motion? Councillors?
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation,
Yes.
which, do you want me to read it out or it's in the agenda? It's not any different to the officer's recommendation.
We'll take that. Is that up on the screen?
No, it says read.
It's as read?
Yep.
Yep, sure. Okay, so as read. Thank you, councillor Hewitt. Would anyone else like to second the motion?
Yep.
Thank you, councillor Hockey, seconding the motion. Councillor Hewitt, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to say briefly that I think all the relevant information was provided in the officer's report. It has been a considered attempt or trial to try and reduce some of the delays that we know people experience in the planning process, and to that extent it has proven successful. There are a number of safeguards in the trial, the number of objectors the numbers of objections to any particular planning application is a guarantee that it comes to council laws for decision. But councillors, officers have managed that very effectively. Also, I think with transparency, by bringing to council planning decisions to inform us of when there are contested strategical matters in those. This is an operational matter. And a safeguard, if community are concerned that councillors are going to have less oversight over planning, well, ours is a strategic role, but there is also an opportunity for councillors, if there are 3 of us, who want to call in applications. So I think those concerns have been demonstrated to be to have been able to be managed in the 18-month trial. So that's why I'm moving this motion.
Thank you very much, councillor. Councillor Hockey.
Yes, just to note, likewise, the fantastic improvement in the number of live applications. It's obviously working very well, and we had some fantastic feedback shared recently from a planner at how pleased they were with the organisation's work. So, yeah, everything's looking like it was a perfect decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right, councillors, do we have anyone else like to, any queries, questions, or anyone else?
Got a question there.
Councillor Drolly.
Mr. Torres, I'm wondering about the measurements of the trial in terms of what you went about to actually measure the success of this process. In particular, why planning applicants weren't actually asked for feedback on as part of this, and in particular why councillors weren't involved at an earlier stage in the feedback process.
Mr. Torres.
So through you, Mayor Clark, thank you. Councillor Dryley, your question's in a number of parts. So can you please just repeat the first part of your question?
So the first question is around the metrics of the review or the trial, and what that sort of encompassed in terms of how you measured the success, and secondly, why applicants weren't included as part of that feedback.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. The metrics are expressed in the officer's report, Councillor Dryley. The officer's report expresses the number of applications, the number of objections received, and how they were dealt with in the planning office. So they demonstrate that they met or were within the thresholds established by the temporary delegations, being 5 objections for applications in a farming zone or 10 elsewhere. So those stats are in the report.
And through you, Mayor, just the second part of the question, councillors have been involved in a number of briefings over the last 18 months, updated all throughout the last 18 months on challenges and opportunities within the planning team, and including the detailed briefing as such of this. Councillors have been well informed around the improvements that we're trying to make in terms of the planning system, and that delegations inform one part of this.
And Mr. Torres said, Mr. Councillor Dry was also asking about planners, how they're involved.
Planners or applicants, let's call them,
Thank you.
have
Sorry,
provided,
a bit of term.
have provided feedback on the conduct of their application, the processing and the decisions. And part of that feedback also includes their ability to challenge an officer's decision at VCAT. And those that data is quite well known. We've shared that throughout the councillor term of 18 months. And it shows that applicants are exercising their rights appropriately. But the benefit of this improved delegation is that applicants are made aware of a decision much sooner rather than an elongated process.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Torres. Any other questions or speak for or against? No? All right then. I'll put the motion to the floor then if we have no other questions or anyone else to speak to. Any concluding remarks, Councillor Hewitt? I'll put it to the floor, the vote.
I've said enough.
Yes, no.
Nobody's kind of.
I don't think we've spoken. Everyone's had a chance to speak.
I've just asked. I'll give it.
I'd like to speak against the motion.
Certainly, Councillor Dryly, I did ask. No?
Look, I really appreciate the improvements that officers have made to process and to seeing reductions in backlogs, and I'm not actually pointing at that level. I think that there are two separate issues here, and one I'm really just honing in on the delegation aspect of this trial, and I would argue that there are success. Really, we need to look at the fact that council has only been able to determine one application in the last 18 months that has come to us through this process. So I'd say that there's actually been quite a reduction in local democratic oversight of the planning program. We used to see regular planning matters coming to us, and I think as our role that it's quite an important community facing position. We lose capacity in that area and dexterity when we're not seeing as many planning applications. We are sort of locking in an officer-led planning system, which, you know, I understand around productivity and efficiency, there is some importance there, but I have an issue with the high delegation at 10. I think that it restricts the capacity particularly for rural communities who, you know, it is actually quite hard to get 10 objections together, where in the past a lower threshold has allowed more flexibility for people to bring objections to council. I think that there's a need for us to consider refusals that given there are higher levels of objection to the refusals, and that there's a greater level of importance placed on that, and I think arguably oversight for councillors to step in and to decide on those matters. I think that we are constantly facing sort of the threat or the erosion of democratic sort of roles and principles, and I think that some things need to be protected. I think this is one of them, and I'm disappointed to see that this is becoming a permanent position in our system.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Dryly. All right, with that, I will provide
Now, because I
the
do.
right of response.
Yeah, before I just want to.
Before I put it to vote, the right of response.
Look, thank you, Councillor Dryly, for your concerns about the motion. I have a different view, which is what council's about. I actually think that as councillors, we've had a fair degree of oversight, certainly with the Hepburn planning overview of rural Hepburn and the other structure plans that have set directions that have enabled our statutory planners to have a clarity about what we wanted. You said that we'd only had one decision come to us. I have a different memory to that. There's been several that I think that I've made decisions on, particularly in relation to matters before VCAT, when they've gone there. We've had to give a conditional view on what we would have done. I think that I personally have been involved in what I considered to be a very effective meeting in Trentham, where we went to the community, to the applicant and to the objectors, and I thought that that was a very satisfactory outcome. We know that there's community dissatisfaction with our planning processes. We established this to try and improve that, and I think that we've seen that it has. There is still the opportunity for councillors to call in applications if there are concerns, and for whatever reason they might do that. Perhaps it's our responsibility to take a more active role in that if we're concerned, but I think it's been an improvement on the system and demonstrated to be. And so I do have a different view, and that's why I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stewart. So with that in mind, I will now put the motion forward for vote. All those in favour, raise your hand.
Councillors Hood, Hewitt, Hockey, Cornish, Clark.
Against?
Riley.
I declare the motion carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Now we'll go to item 7.4, which is advocacy regarding section 229. And I would like to put the motion, but I'd like to relinquish the chair so I can speak to the motion. So before that motion, to relinquish that, will someone like to second that? You'll move. All those in favour?
Yes.
He was seconded.
You need a
I thought you.
to move it. You'll need a second.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I can't move it. There you go. Thank you for the program.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second it.
No, you can't see.
No, I'll second it.
All those in favour?
Passed unanimously.
That's it. Yeah, thank you. Chair?
Thank you. At the moment, Councillor Tony Clark.
Thank you very much.
We have item 7.4, advocacy regarding the suspension of a councillor under section 229 of the Local Government Act. Do I have a councillor to introduce this report?
I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much. So councillors, we have, there is section 229 of the Local Government Act 2020. Basically provides there's a set of circumstances that when a councillor has a charge placed upon them, that they are stood down immediately. The legislation, I believe, when passed, or the legislation when passed has no prosecutorial or integrity oversight, and are involved anywhere in that situation. This provision also unfortunately presents an opportunity for this to be abused. And we as Hepburn Shire have advocated with state government to look at changing the legislation to look at addressing that to ensure that there is prosecutorial and integrity agency oversight. I'm pleased to advise councillors that
just accept
that?
some
that'll be fine. Okay,
Thank you. Now, councillors, I'll go to questions now prior to having a look at how we're voting on the motion. Are there any questions on this item 7.4? Councillor Wood has his hand up.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just seeking a clarification. I may have misheard Councillor Clark's opening comments there, but I thought I heard the phrase that when passed. Has this bill, this amendment, been passed in Parliament, or is it currently before Parliament? I'm not up to speed with where things are up to in a timing sense.
So through you, Chair, there's a current bill before Parliament now, so it's had first reading, but it hasn't been through the upper house as well. And that is a change from when the report was written. The report was written and released to the public middle of last week. The bill was tabled by government on Thursday, so it is a adjustment, and it does include a lot of the advocacy that was referred to in this report.
Any other questions? No?
I'm just confirming which motion we're supporting.
No, I haven't called for a motion yet. Councillors, may I draw to your attention that there are a couple of motions to consider, but one of the motions does clearly take into consideration Councillor Wood's concerns. So we'll go to now a motion. Do I have a motion? Councillor Clark, do I have a seconder?
Or what's his motion?
Oh, motion.
We
Yep.
have the revised version up on the screen. If you could read it for, thank you.
I'll read it for you, Councillor Clark, and let us know if this is the motion you wish to pass. So that Council 1 notes that the local government legislation amendment, the Stronger Communities Bill 2026, received its first reading in the lower house of the Victorian Parliament on the 17th of June and is due to have its second reading on the 28th of July. 2, welcomes section 24 of the bill, which proposes changes to section 229 of the Local Government Act 2020 to the effect that the standing down of a councillor does not apply unless A proceeding for the offence is commenced on, or booked by, or on behalf of a law enforcement agency, or the complainant is a law enforcement agency. 3, notes the advocacy undertaken by council to date and lobbying for legislative change to section 229 of the Local Government Act 2020. And 4, looks forward to the passage and gazetting of the bill later this year to provide assurance to councils like Hepburn, which have been impacted by the unintended consequences of section 229 of the Act.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion?
Yes, certainly.
Councillor Hockey. Councillor Clark, would you like to speak?
I would thank you very much, Chair Cornish.
I'm not Chair Cornish.
Chair Cornish. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the true importance of section 229 in terms of supporting and ensuring that our systems are robust and defensible, and there is confidence from our community. I also want to acknowledge that in terms of the way the Act should be applied, and also acknowledge that when this bill was passed, there probably wasn't a foresight in terms of the integrity authority being applied. And I think it's very important that we have an independent integrity authority, an integrity authority or prosecutorial authority that provides clear, evidence-based decisions and oversight. Right, so there is actually that view. And I think without that, there are real risks. And I think this motion, which looks at supporting what we're doing, the motion supporting the addition of the current legislation that is in, will add a value, but also provide a lot of certainty and comfort for the local government sector as a whole. And I think that that's also very important that we consider that because this is an overarching governance issue. So that was my introduction.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Hockey?
I just note the advocacy work and the effectiveness of it, and the Shire's leadership in this space. So terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak?
I was wondering if
sorry, do you wish
Yep.
to speak?
Yep.
Councillor Dry.
I was wondering if Councillor Clark would consider a slight amendment.
Want to note your amendment?
What are you proposing?
In item 4, it says look forward to the passage and gazetting of the bill. I would say passage and gazetting of this section of the bill, because I don't think we can speak to the entirety of the bill in this case, and I would not support the bill in its entirety.
Councillor Clark?
I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you. Can we just read out that point 4, please?
To point forward that addition.
With the, I'm asking Councillor Drolly to do that.
Looks forward to the passage and gazetting of this section of the bill later this year, etc.
Thank you.
That's been captured.
Do we have support for that amendment, councillors?
Yes.
Right. Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hood, I'm waiting.
I have a question. I'm seeking a clarification, because again, I've been out of the loop on this. I'm focusing on 2A. What would happen in the situation where a proceeding is instigated by a member of the public and then taken over by a law enforcement agency? The way this is written at the moment is it's commenced by a law enforcement agency. What happens if it's not commenced by a law enforcement agency, but commenced by someone else, a member of the public, for example, and then taken over? I'm not. How would that work?
Yes.
Through you, Chair, and I think there's some applications of the legislation that will need to continue to be reviewed. I think in that situation, what often would happen is if an oversight agency takes it on, they become the complainant, and therefore Part B would apply. But there will be some interpretation and needing to work through as part of the legislation. But the intent of these changes aligns with the advocacy that Council's been undertaking.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I think that makes it a bit clearer. And in any event, I'm assuming that the wording of 2A and 2B is not ours. It's not council's. It's what the bill says.
Correct. Through you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Did you wish to speak, councillor Hood? Apart from
No, I only had that question. I was just hanging
Okay.
on the literal words.
Councillor Hewitt, did you wish to say anything here?
What I was going to say has been altered by Councillor Dryley's amendment, because we're only commenting on this particular section of the bill. Councillors, I did have the opportunity to read through the bill, which, as Councillor Hood's said, is part of the legislation, and it's got to come for a second reading. It's difficult with legislation to understand all the implications of all of it, and that's not part of what we're debating tonight. But just in line with Councillor Dryley's comments, if people are interested in local government, then this bill is up and running and people need to read it and understand what's happening. So that was what I was going to say. But on this particular section, along with Councillor Dryley's amendment, I'm happy to support it.
Councillor Clark, do you wish to close?
No, just look, only just my last remarks is, thank the councillors for their ongoing input and personal advocacy in this space on behalf of the sector. And I commend the motion to you, as I believe it is a positive step forward.
Thank you very much, councillors. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Passed unanimously.
Thank you. I just wish, before we move back to the chair, to say a few words. I have read the amended section 229, and in my view there is a flaw in section 229, and I see it as not being section 229 is not a problem in its objective alone, but in the lack of flexibility. A more balanced model may involve independent assessment, which I think will occur, greater procedural safeguards and consideration of the specific circumstances before an elected councillor is automatically removed from their role. That's all I really want to say, councillors, about that. Now I'll move a motion for Councillor Clark to resume the chair. Thank you. All those in favour?
Passed unanimously.
Off you go.
Thank you very much, councillor.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll go to item 8, which is items of urgent business. I don't believe we have any, so thank you, council. We'll go to item number 9, which is the reports, and we'll start off with my first as Mayor's report. 3 items I'd just like to report back, councillors. And the first is around our advocacy efforts. So last Thursday, along with 5 other councils with their mayors and CEOs through GBAC, the Greater Ballarat Alliance of Councils, we visited State Parliament House. We had 12 meetings. We broke into 2 groups, and we met a broad range of ministers directly and their departments to advocate on behalf of our region. We met with Minister Michaela Settle, ex-Minister Stakos, Minister Demopoulos. We had representatives from the Minister Sonia Kilkenny. We met with the Greens. We met with a broad range of the National Party, Liberal Party, and many others. And I think it was a really positive activity, and it was great to get. And obviously Minister Hamer was one too, and local government, but to actually get in front of the ministers as a collective group, and there was great strength in working in numbers. And I think it was a great opportunity for us to put our case forward. And I believe there was obviously some election year, so you've got to take a little bit of grain of salt, but there was certainly some positive feedback that we received. And I also think it demonstrates that we actually need to be there, do this on a regular basis, so that we are talking to the people making decisions, making sure that we are front of mind, and that we continue to push. And also because voting for the MAV and the state bodies and RSV, we add to all of that, but we can't rely on that. This is a way for us to shape our own destiny. So I think it was a very, very good exercise, and I want to congratulate all the other 5 councils: Ballarat, Golden Plains, Central Goldfields, Moorabool, and who's the other one? Pyrenees Shire for going. So that was a really good outcome. The second thing I want to talk about really is the budget. Now, the budget the council and community have been working very hard on over the last week, and I do want to, thank the entire community who have taken the time and effort to make all the submissions for the meetings that we had in Trentham and in Daylesford to hear, and people took out their time for us to hear their contributions, their input, and we're certainly taking that on board, and we're looking forward to hearing from people tomorrow night to put forward our final budget. And finally, I think, the last thing was last week or the week before, we had a round table with all the major events on the show, and that was a fantastic evening. We got everybody in a room and was here, and we talked through the events, some of the challenges that all the events have changed, because what's really important that we as a council and officers get to hear, what's happening at the coalface, how it's working, so that we can best support our community groups who work so hard, who do such an amazing job, how we might be able to identify initiatives and how we can actually work with them to get better outcomes, economic development, and of course enrich the culture of our wonderful Shire. So thank you. That will be all for my report. So thank you, councillors and officers. So we'll go to 9.2 councillor reports. Hang on. Councillor Cornish. I might not be going in order here.
Thank you. I'll just add to the
But I'll just go in the tape. Yep.
the meeting that we had regarding, well, it was a festival round table. That's our 4 major festivals. It's the first time the Shire has conducted such a meeting, and I thought it was really good because there are problems in running these major events. Many have lots and lots of volunteers, which is absolutely amazing. Like Booktown has over 100 volunteers. The same with Chill Out, much more than that. And the other events have 100 or more volunteers. So that's fabulous, really. And I think you see that more in a rural setting rather than in Melbourne Metro. So it's great. That was very productive. We know a few of the issues that they face as well to run the events in the future. We did a flag raising in Creswick for the Reconciliation Week, and school children were involved in that, and that was also positive. So pretty chilly morning. And there was another event. There was a dinner up at Doug Lindsay Reserve to honour, it happens every year, to honour 4 Creswick people that have contributed to Creswick in the past. So that was a great event. And of course the budget discussions. We've been budgeting for months now, and It's been a lot of work, but I think we've almost got there now. So thank you. That's all I've
Thank
got
you
to say.
very much, Councillor Cornish. Councillor Hockey.
Thanks, Mayor. Got a live one to deliver this month. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the work of the teams working across the Shire this month. Cold and wet and challenging at this time of year, but the work continues to maximise value to ratepayers. I particularly appreciate the work done this month with the Clunes Tennis Courts and in support of the Clunes Museum. I am very much in the camp of the ask not what your Shire can do for you, but what you can do for your Shire. It's my upbringing. And self-reliance is what builds great institutions and great communities. And I pay tribute to the attitude of community groups who are just getting on with things. At this time too, I'd like to acknowledge the work of the senior executive and managers as we continue to manage multiple complex issues in finance, compliance and governance. Simply extraordinary. The complexity of a small Shire like ours is not much different to the very large urban councils contained within a handful of square kilometres, and yet the size of our bureaucracy is inevitably strained by a lack of proportionate funding. Finally, I would like here to take a moment to sing the praises of our Mayor Tony Clark, who is about at the halfway point of his term. The challenges have been coming thick and fast, and a more worthy leader through all of this is hard to imagine. I commend his work to residents as a great example, an outstanding mayor who will leave a lasting legacy. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hockey. Councillor Dromley, so I'll post your report, and then if you could follow along with the MAV report, that'd be great. We'd be grateful.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. The broad theme connecting my report this month is discussions around the rising cost of living and just the increasing inequality around the pressures that people are experiencing across our community. And also to note that the international instability is being felt locally through rising energy prices, freight costs, food prices and pressures on household budgets. And housing affordability and availability is also placing growing strain on renters, younger people, lower income households and workers. And as we consider another difficult budget, it's important to note that our municipality is not without its wealth. There's considerable private and corporate wealth, stable property assets, incredibly prosperous economic activity across our region. But the prosperity is not experienced evenly. For many people, the reality is that they are working harder, paying more for essentials and feeling less secure. The challenge is not to diminish success, but to ensure that prosperity can be a broader responsibility. And those with the greatest capacity, including major corporations, highly profitable businesses and wealthy individuals, have a moral obligation to make a much fairer contribution to the long-term community infrastructure, services and resilience in which economic success also depends. And we also must work to retain more value that's created in our region. Local spending, investment and procurement support local businesses, workers, housing, events and community organisations. That wealth circulates through the community rather than continually flowing out. That's an important part of building a stronger and more resilient local economy. These questions of fairness and capacities and community benefit are highly relevant given our recent budget discussions. And I want to sincerely thank everyone who's made a budget submission or participated in one or two of the community budget forums. Community views are not always the same and difficult choices remain, but every contribution helps councillors better understand local priorities, impacts and expectations. I also attended the Creswick Civic Honour Roll dinner hosted by Creswick District Historical Society. It was a meaningful evening recognising people who have made exceptional contributions to Creswick. During Reconciliation Week, I also attended the flag raising ceremonies in Creswick. It's an important expression of respect and reminder that reconciliation requires continuing local action, truth-telling, stronger relations with First Nations people. I also attended the Signature Events Roundtable event, and I really want to acknowledge the collaborative nature of that event and the outcomes that were achieved as a first in this space, so working much more strongly together as a group and as a council as one of those stakeholders. And I think it's a really good example of how communities can pull together. And I will report on the MAV report.
Thank you.
Okay. Need to go to that. And I'll table my full councillor report because I can get through it all.
Nice, thank you.
So I attended the MAB State Council as Hepburn's delegate in late May, and there are 84 motions considered and 83 were carried. So there's a strong sort of alignment across the sector on the challenges councils are facing. For Hepburn, the most important outcome was the unanimous support for our co-submitted motion on municipal emergency management resourcing. This is significant because rural councils like ours are carrying the increasing responsibilities for emergency preparedness, response and recovery, and without a funding model that keeps pace. The motion now gives us a much stronger platform to advocate for increased index funding, which is critical for our communities given our exposure to bushfire and extreme weather risk. More broadly, the meeting reinforced a set of consistent sector-wide priorities, and some of those that came across in this meeting were emergency management and climate resilience, housing and planning reform, particularly for regional communities, transport access, especially improved bus services, and financial sustainability, including pushing back against cost shifting to councils. And really just to emphasise the importance of the MAB as a collective voice for councils. We have a limited voice as an individual, but through MAV we can align our advocacy, we can amplify rural and regional issues, and we put coordinated pressure on state and federal governments. So the success of the emergency management motion is a good example of that. It's not just a Hepburn issue, it is a sector-wide issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dorothy. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. Since I'm known for taking too long, I will just start. Stop. Start. Look, I've only been back in the country a couple of weeks and been to a couple of events which really highlight the comments Councillor Hockey was raising. That was the Bright-Eyed Brown Butterfly celebration at Trent Street Reserve in Trentham, the events roundtable, which has already been referred to, and the turning on of the soccer lights at Daylesford. The events roundtables have already been discussed by my colleagues, but what I wanted to say was both the celebration in Trentham for the brown-eyed butterfly and the turning on of the soccer lights were really good examples of community working with council and achieving something that's really important for those local communities. And both those events, we've been talking about the budget. Yes, we have been doing a lot of work on it. Both of those events show how effective council can be in working with communities with very small outlays to actually make things happen. And I really liked, Councillor Hockey, your comment about not what can I do, what can the Shire do for me, what can I do for the Shire? So I think I'll steal that line. The soccer lights have been, and these things don't just happen. Getting those soccer lights, and not just our local member Mary-Ann Thomas turning up and me turning up and a few soccer people and a few workers. There's lots of work that goes on before the grant got given by the state government, and thank you to the state government for the $269,780. That was our local members' work. It was our CEO and officers' work. It was councillors, and it was the soccer club. And then what happened is once the money was there, our officers that perhaps don't get enough kudos, so Gary Learmonth and Lizzie Aitken, and in Trentham, Brian Bainbridge, and our environmental person whose name is escaping me because I'm not well, called out by the community for how fabulous they'd been and how hard they worked and how they made those projects happen. Now, yeah, we get to see the senior execs and, you know who your staff are, but kudos to them and calling them out for working in what's at the moment fairly difficult times. So well done to those who lead them, but for them who put the work in, and recognising that that just doesn't happen because suddenly the state government wake up one morning and
30
think,
seconds.
okay, I'll give them $250,000 to put in soccer lights. It's the combined efforts for everybody. So well done, Councillor Hockey, for calling that out. And I completely agree with what you've said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Hood.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't wish to table the report at the moment.
No worries, thank you very much, noted. All right, councillors, well, I just put a motion forward that councillors note and accept the Mayor and Councillor's report.
Move it.
You move it, seconded?
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favour?
Passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to item 9.2, CEO's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, there's a written report that has a number of the activities and highlights of the month. A number of them have been touched on by councillors. Two other things, just want to acknowledge a number of really positive comments there from councillors. So thank you for your support, and I will ensure all staff provided with a copy of tonight's council meeting to hear that. That's lovely to see. The other thing would be remiss to be, since the tabling of the agenda, council has released its 2026 local government community satisfaction surveys results, and we don't take a backward step for needing some improvements. There's some real positive things in there, but there's some things in there that we will take ownership of and continue to work positively around improvements. We don't get everything right. No organisation, no individual does, but we can learn a lot from the results in the survey. We're always on an opportunity to look at the great things we do, but the last 10, 15 minutes, when you think about some of the things that we continue to deliver for our community, it's extremely, it's really warming our hearts across the staff to do that. So we'll continue to work hard each and every day that we do, particularly given we're in a tough environment. Local government is not always loved by everyone, but I can assure you councillors and staff are turning up every day, giving 110%. So we'll keep working for the community and keep delivering as we can. So report is tabled.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. So just put a motion forward to accept and note the CEO's report.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Hockey, seconded. Thank you, Councillor Cornish. All those in favour?
Passed unanimously.
Thank you all very much, councillors. All right, we'll move now to item 10. We have a confidential item. I need to put forward a motion to close the meeting to the public. You'll second, put that motion forward. Would you like to second that?
Yes, please.
Thank you, seconded. All right, put all those in favour?
Councillor Hewitt, Hockey, Cornish and Clark.
Okay, all those against?
Riley, Hood.
Okay, I'll declare that carried. So we'll now formally close the means of confidential. Do we have any people in the gallery?
Yeah, so there's people in the gallery.